photo editing live stream where I edit your photos here using DxO's Photolab. And DxO Photolab 9 got released this week, so that's what I'll be using going forward, and has some really nice upgrades on the AI masking and all of the masking tools, and they really did a good job with it. So you'll get to see some of that today. And if you're new to DxO, I do have a 20% coupon code down below. It's today's the last day to get 20% off any of the DxO products, including the new DxO Photolab 9. So if you can, take advantage of that. Use my affiliate link, and I'll earn a commission on qualified sales. Normal disclaimer. But anyhow, I see a lot of great photos you guys submitted today. So we'll go ahead and get started. The idea of the stream is to basically show you how to use the tools in DxO. Now, some of the AI tools are still new to me, so I may stumble a little bit, but we'll get there. Um, and, just to give you an idea, I'm going to walk you through my thought process, and you'll see my workflow. And I'll try and talk out loud those ideas or methods that I use, so that you can get started quickly if you have also DxO. And a lot of these will apply to DxO like Photolab 6, 7, 8. Mostly, primarily 8 because of the new ViewPoint technology. But and just a note, I will be streaming again at about 1:30, somewhere around that time frame today, a couple hours after this stream ends, and do an open Q&A and demo for Photolab 9 if you're still kind of on the fence about getting it, and you just had a few questions. I'll try and answer them. But nothing like seeing your own photos being edited using Photolab 9, and that's why I doing this. That's why I do this every week, to show you the power of DxO, particularly the optics module, the denoising, and now the new AI tools. So I have here, let's see, this one's from Serge. Wow, Serge, we don't normally get seascapes from you. Normally Serge sends in some like foresty type stuff. But this is great. This is a great shot. And what I think about first is I just try to look at the composition. And again, this is not being critical, or I'm not critiquing these images. I'm simply looking at them as if they were my own pictures and what I would do. And it's all very subjective, any creative choices I make here. There's no right or wrong. So let me just put that out there as well. So I'm going to straighten the horizon. And what's really important in Photolab is you need to do all your geometry first, like perspective distortions, lens corrections, things like that. So come to think of it, the first thing I normally do is I do apply a basic preset. DxO has a DxO standard preset here, but I've created a lot of my own. I have one here called Rob's Default. And it's almost identical to the DxO standard preset, but I added a couple of things. And I will give these my presets away to members of the channel. And it's only 99 cents if you want to be a member. But that said, let's go ahead and get started. So the basic preset that I created just does optical corrections, which is a signature feature of DxO Photolab. And then noise reduction, chromatic aberration, and that's about it, really. And maybe a tiny bit of sharpening, and then also choosing a natural profile, which is in the color panel here. I like to use the DxO Natural. All right, so let me go ahead and get started with some geometry corrections. So I'll go to the geometry panel here. I can try and click auto, but that rarely works. Well, actually it did this time. Wow, okay. So we'll go with that. And let's see. I'm debating if I should do a wide shot or maybe a vertical. So I'm going to try 16 by 9. And then I just use this rule of thirds grid here to just sort of split the horizon into foreground, midground, and background. So I may come up a little bit more. I think right in here is a nice foreground, and then we have in the middle here, and that looks pretty good. So with that, I think 16 by 9 works well here. And then I definitely want to bring out some of the details in the rocks here, and then a little bit of a glimmer coming onto the water here. So this is what, a 5-second exposure. And then maybe temper the highlights and bring out some of the colors here in the sky. So that's my thoughts on exposure. I think the overall exposure is fine. We just have to adjust the shadows primarily. And then white balance, I think we're okay. Maybe I can go a tad warmer down here. But yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking right now overall. So let me collapse this panel here. And let's go right to local adjustments here. And this is new in Photolab 9, is this AI masking. And then over here, I have some icons up here where I can change how I want to mask things. If I just move my mouse around, it'll automatically select things as I move my mouse around. Or I can select from these subject detection tools. So we'll do sky. And you can see it's now highlighted the sky. And I like clear view. That's sort of like dehaze for those of you that may be coming from Lightroom. And I'll just temper the highlights a bit, like so. So it looks like right in here is a little bit clipped, but that's okay. And then we'll do the foreground. So what I can do is I'm going to create a new mask, and I'm going to use the rectangle tool here. Because I have a pointer tool where it'll just select things, but I don't want to go around and select everything individually in this particular situation. I can use the rectangle tool and just sort of block, highlight things like this. Go down here. And just keep going until I kind of get everything that I want. Yeah, that looks good. And you'll also notice that it does feather the edges. The softer edges, it tends to feather, so you get a much more natural mask in the process. And I didn't have to do anything. I can just, highlight the areas. So this workflow, again, is very similar to the ViewPoint technology that I've been doing all these years. But they've basically carried the spirit of that or workflow of that into their AI masking, which is just amazing. Okay, so let's go ahead and push the shadows. And typically I like to get a straight line and select the tone area here. So I'm going to push everything here. And that to me usually gives the most natural looking push when you do shadows and highlights. Anytime you do selective tones, and this is just my personal preference, something like that. Okay. And I've noticed here that I'm starting to see a little bit of I wouldn't call it haloing, but I can see where the mask is starting and ending. So I'm going to feather this a little bit more if I can. So I'm going to go up here and just select a brush. And then I'm going to push the Alt key on my keyboard. Now I got a negative brush. So that's the normal brush. If I want to add to it, I can do this. And that actually adding might be a better way to go. And then I can adjust the flow and opacity. So I'm going to turn the flow down. And I'm going to put the opacity down right around 30% each. So that way I can just kind of brush gradually anywhere that I'm going to go in the composition. So I can just add a little bit here. All right, very good. I think that looks a lot more natural. What I'm going to do now is just add a new mask. So what I want to do is highlight some of the color that's coming out of the sky onto the water. And again, I think I'll stick with a brush at this 30-30 flow and opacity. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to, let me just start one brush. Let me start right in here. I can go onto the rocks a little bit. And I'm going to warm that up just a little bit more and then add a little vibrancy so it stands out more. I'm going to spill some of that onto the rock, especially right in here. Then maybe a little bit over here, just a touch and a touch here. Let me spread this out. And let me make my brush a little smaller. So I just hit the control on my keyboard and turn the wheel on the mouse. And I just want a little kiss of warmth on some of the rocks here. I might back it off over here a little bit. Let's just add a little bit in here and here. And I think I got too much magenta, so I'm going to pull that back a little bit. Just a little bit more warmth there. Let me, I'm going to hit the Alt key and just subtract a little bit. If I hit the Alt and Control key at the same time, it'll make the brush smaller by rolling the mouse. I think I can back it off a little bit in here. I'm going to add just a tiny bit up there. Okay. I think we're looking pretty good. Now, the water, I think I want it to be a little bit more dynamic and have stronger speculars and maybe a little bit darker in some of the other parts. So basically, I'm going to push the highlights and pull the shadows a little bit. And I think I'll do that with another brush. So I'm going to create a new mask. Oops, down here, plus. And let's see. I think just spill in here a little bit. I'm going to pull the blacks this time. Then the shadows. Then the midtones a little bit. I think I can do a little more. And maybe just a little bit on the exposure, just a linear pull here. And then we just add one more brush. A little bit there. A little bit on here. Use a smaller brush and just go in here a bit. And up here. Okay. That's good. Now I'm going to make a new mask for highlights. So I'm going to use the same brush tool. It'll be a little bit bigger. Let me do like that. And I'm just going to go and push the highlights a bit. And then the midtones, something like that. And just kiss a little bit in here, a little bit around there, and here. And definitely here. Use a little smaller brush. And maybe just add a little bit right there. Okay, now I'm going to just do a quick compare. Okay, we're almost there, I think. Um, Now I'm just going to do one more brush and just kiss a little bit on the rocks, the highlights. Maybe push that up with some clear view and micro contrast. And smaller down here. And I'm just brushing over. Basically, if I brush over the same place 3 times, that's 100%. So I'm not going to get any more, even if I continue to brush. So it's okay. But I'm just giving you an idea. Why am I brushing over the same spot? I just want to maximize the highlights. Maybe push the contrast. I want it to be a little bit more specular. Okay, just a little kiss on the water too. And then last but not least, let me go back to this mask and see if I can get a little more color in there. Be a little more warm. And some micro contrast, a bit of clear view, and maybe a slight pull on the highlights there. No, I think we're good. All right, let's call it there. So let's export to disk. I'm going to export to the original folder. We'll call it DxO9 sRGB. So when you export as JPEG, you want to make sure your ICC profile is set to sRGB. And that's so that when you post it to, say, Instagram or Facebook or whatever, it'll display the colors properly because 99.9% of the web uses sRGB. If you use a different color profile, the colors are not going to display properly on most displays. There's some exceptions out there with tablets and phones, but for the most part, you're going to be fine with sRGB. So let's export that. And now what the export does is going to apply everything I just did in addition to noise reduction. Uh, and it and a little bit extra sharpening sometimes I've noticed, but it's barely noticeable. And when that's done exporting, there's a little wheel here. I can also look at the progress bar down here, and we can see how long it takes to export. And it used to take 15 to 20 seconds, but since I'm using the AI tools, it's taken quite a bit longer. Looks like it's going to take it's about 45 seconds here. And that's okay. It saves us so much time editing. I think it's we come out net positive in terms of time. So I'm going to reset the original photo, and we're going to compare it to the output here. And we'll do a side by side. So here's the original, 4:3, I believe, aspect ratio, and then here's my edit in 16:9. And let's do a split view like this. So the main thing, right, was mainly just working with the speculars and then giving the water a little bit more dynamic range and color. And I think that came out pretty well um, without making it look over processed, right? And I can zoom all the way in just to see how we did with the details. And I think that came out pretty good. All right. Nice, really beautiful shot there, Serge. All right, let's go over here to McCurdy. And I'm going to bring my panels in. I'm just going to hit the F9 key to bring my panels back in. And if you want to know what all the shortcuts are in Photolab, you can go to the help window here and it'll open up a separate window that you can move around and you can see all the different shortcuts to everything in there. Okay. Now this one, let's apply basic preset. And oh, I didn't download the optics module for Serge's photo. Okay. We would have undoubtedly got a little bit sharper image if I downloaded the optics module, but in a stream it'd be hard to see that. Okay, so for this image, the exposure looks good, and I think there's a lot of interesting elements. This looks like the same building we saw before, where there was like some mining equipment up here in the top right. This may be a different angle. And I like this composition a lot better. The question is, there's some fine details here with this fence. So the question is, do I minimize the fence and try and make it look more authentic? Because this is a little bit modern, right? This fence. Or do I leave everything or try to bring out all of the different elements in this image that make it kind of interesting? And then there's potential for black and white as well. So let me just do a quick preview. I think I'll stay with color again. I stayed with color on the last scene. And the horizon is perfectly straight. It's just the building is falling in on itself. So it's a little bit crooked, which is fine. So I'm going to emphasize some of the reds here and maybe the greens and this pastel-y color. So I'm going to go very pastel-y on this image with just a few accents of more solid colors like red and green. And I think that'll go nicely. So let me try natural. Can I apply my preset? I did. Okay. So we'll do natural. Let's see what vibrant looks like and vivid. We'll stick to natural. Composition-wise, it's very well balanced. So you have foreground, midground, background. I always think of an image typically, what's in the foreground, what's in the midground, and what's in the background. Where is the subject in those different layers? And how's the light coming? All of that stuff I think about while I'm looking at the image. So I think we're pretty well balanced, but let me just do a quick analysis here. So yeah, 1/3 is solid in the center. The question is, do I want this on the right? Because the building is facing to the left. So I'm thinking I might be able to just crop in and at least get rid of this one sort of barrel. That feels a little better. Because now the line is kind of coming in here and then going up to the store. Instead of, when you have the building right in the center, uh, it just depends where the front door is. The front door is here. I think this feels a little better, a little more balanced. rather than say, yeah, that would be too much. I think I can come in just a hair tighter because you'll notice how tight this little cabinet is over here to the left side, but I want to keep that. I want to sort of balance that also with the right side. Maybe just come up a tiny bit. Right. That feels good. Um, Now let me go back to the color panel. I'm just going to reduce the vibrancy first. Just a little bit on the saturation, just to mute the colors a little bit. But then I'm going to go back and I'm going to use the color dropper and just sort of emphasize some of the rust. And let's give, yeah. All right, now let's see what color this is. This is going to be yellow. Yeah. I know it looks green, but it's really yellow. So let's just shift it a little more green. And then saturate those a bit. And that looks good. Let me see where we're at. Yeah, that's looking good. Maybe a little bit more. Let's go back to this reddish orange. Push that. Let's get away from, yeah, let's kind of get away from the yellows. I'm gonna pull that back a little bit. Just really punch up the reddish orange thing. All right, yeah, this color wheel is awesome. It's really a great way to work with the colors. So we got stronger reds up in here and stronger greens in the foreground. Now, the overall exposure, I think we can maybe just give a little push in the shadows and then maybe a slight push or pull on the highlights. So maybe I think I'll just use the normal tools here. We'll do a linear or a control line. I'm going to select this and I'm going to adjust the luminance a little bit tighter. And then we'll just pull the highlights a tiny bit. Maybe do a linear pull on the exposure. Right about there. And then the same thing on the top. We just pick something on the roof here. Okay, let's add a little micro contrast. Just to give it a little grit. Okay, let me see where we're at. It's a very subtle difference. All right, now let's work on the shadows a bit. So I'm going to use a control point and just let's create a new mask. And then we'll use a very tight luma. And I like to typically only do ±5, maybe 10. This area here is a little bit extreme, so I think 10 is good. Let me look at 15. Yeah, right in there looks good. So let's just do, let's push the shadows. So I want to see what's in there. And then let's go to the midtones. And I'll push the highlights. And then maybe just a linear push this, and then we'll add some clear view and micro contrast. Okay, I think that works. Let's see where we're at. Okay, I think that's all I need to do here. Um, maybe let me make a new mask. Let me just see if I can bring out some of the micro contrast. Yeah, we'll just use a control point, like on this cabinet. So I'm going to tighten up the chroma mask, the color mask. Chroma and color kind of mean the same thing. And just give it a ton of micro contrast. And some clear view. And I can do the same thing on this sort of wagon. See what it looks like on the roof. Yeah, I like that. Okay. Just a couple of touches here and there. Maybe this little vent. And this window. And this roof line. So I kind of like it on the wood all over. Just do that. All right. And then this little building in the back. All right. Well, good. So I'll export that, and then we'll do a side by side. You lost your erase tool, Paul? Oh, that's weird. It's never happened to me. I mean, I'll get like program errors time to time, like little glitches, and I have to restart DxO. Sometimes I have to reboot my computer, which is it's probably a computer problem in those situations, but sometimes restarting DxO does the trick. All right, so let's reset this image and we'll compare it. We'll do it side by side. So yeah, I think I accomplished what I wanted. Uh, I really wanted to bring out the details and the red tones in the buildings and in the other areas here. And then also without, you know, changing the color too much in the background and foreground, actually muting that a little bit so that I have better color separation between the building and the ground. Also emphasize the greens and yellows here for the brush. And I think that came out pretty nice. So if we do a split view, and then compositionally as well, right? So let me go back. Uh, I think this feels better. It feels a little bit more dynamic rather than just having this building here front and center, but getting it a little bit tighter. And this is just my style, right? I like to fill the frame with the subject as much as I can, uh, especially when there's a very clear subject here, the building. Um, so I think this feels a little more balanced. I would actually even cut off a little more off the top. Um, if I were to look at this again. But let's just do a quick slider. So there's the original, it's the raw. So the raw images typically are, a little bit flatter, lower contrast, and that's why we process raw images. And I think we got some great detail out of this. If I zoom all the way in here. Yeah, that looks great. So you'll notice the image is a little bit soft when we zoom in at this close, but then now we can see all of the texture You can see this window was painted at one time, and it's the paint is coming off. So all the grain in the wood. Yeah, I think it looks great. So this will print large very nicely, I think. All right, let's go to the next one. Oh, you lost part of. Oh, that's weird. Okay. Yeah, I've not had that problem. Okay. Hopefully they can help you out with that. All right, so I'm going to bring my panels back in, and oh, what's this? An Australian Shepherd? Is that what this is? I think I really wanted to get one of these dogs. Um, but too late for me now. Let's see. Oops. So compositionally, again, we have the dog front and center. But I feel like we could probably crop in quite a bit here. Uh, and just like this little bit of red, this might be a pier or a dock, is very distracting for me. So I'm going to crop in right here on the left, again, fill the frame. So first, let me do my basic preset here. And let's do something like this. Again, just rule of thirds, have the dog's head basically in the upper left potentially. And then I also try to look to see if there's any leading lines or any other kind of geometry I could use to help frame within a frame as well. But I think that works pretty well right there. We could probably even go in a little tighter. Yeah, that works. Okay, so the walker is very, very bright. So there's a couple of ways I would approach this. I could try to temper the highlights, but they're probably close to clipping and they wouldn't look good if I tried to bring them in, but I'll try. So I can try to temper the highlights down, give it a little bit of color, it's like a cooler color, or I can try to just go the other way and clip it out completely, because I really want to get a good separation of the subject from the background. So let me just I'm just going to experiment here a bit and just see if I did do something with the highlights, that could work. Or if I tried to temper them, that kind of works too. Obviously, I wouldn't highlight the dog like that, but um, I'm thinking I'll go a little bit high key. I think high key looks better to me. So let's do this. Let's try the AI mask again and see if it'll just get the water. Ah, perfect. So we'll do that. Now, let me, it's kind of coming into the dog. Let me delete that. Let me try one more time. Okay, so it's feathered into the dog a bit too much. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my brush, hit the control key, and just pull this out a little bit. Just erase this around the dog itself. And I'm going to brush it back in. Move it off there and brush it back in. All right, that looks good. And then I'm going to just to, I'm going to do a very low flow and opacity here, back to my 30/30, and just get rid of a little bit here in the front. So I want to feather sort of the highlights. All right, let's see if this is going to work. So if I just push the exposure up, maybe leave a little bit of the water in there. And see if there's any reason to do color. It's kind of interesting. Let me back this off a little bit. And I'm going to erase, I think I'll erase a little bit out here. On the right mask, yeah. Erase a little bit in here. I'm going to increase my opacity. I want to pull off a little more. Okay, good. And then let me check my white balance. I like that little bit of warmth. Okay. I'll add that. Oops. Let's not add that to the dog. Okay. Maybe just pull off a little bit more in here. Okay. And then I'm going to create a new brush. And I'm just going to brush in here. Let's pull the opacity back a bit and add some warmth up here. A little bit of green. All right, now let's work on the dog. I'm going to brighten the eyes a bit. So I didn't really have to do too much AI masking on this because the subjects are all separated pretty well as it is. But there's a hint of blue in the eye. So I'm going to use a regular control point. Whoops. Control point. There we go. And just click right in here and just come in on the eyes. And I'm putting the control point right on the iris here where it's a little bit blue, because that's the color I want to emphasize. So I'm going to tighten up the chroma just a tad. And the luminosity a tad. There we go. And let's add a little vibrancy first and see if that helps. Not really. So what I'm going to do, let me see if I can push the blues. There we go. It just needs a hint. There we go. Perfect. And then some clear view and micro contrast. And then a little push on the shadows. And we'll go to the midtones. And when I'm working with very small local adjustments, I don't really need to make a line like I normally do over here. I just do whatever I needed to do. Okay, let me just do a quick comparison. All right, so what I want to do now is I want to add a little warmth to the dog as if it's actually a sunny day because rather than a cloudy day. Uh, so that it looks like I'm getting a little bit of backlighting, right, or rim lighting onto the dog itself, but not too much. So maybe just another brush, and we'll do a 30-30 on the. Let me use a little smaller brush, something like this, and just add a little bit of a kiss here, a little bit in here, a little bit inside the ear. And let's push the highlights and the midtones. Very, very subtle in the shadow. Okay. And then I'm going to add a little bit of warmth to that too. Not a little, looks like a lot, but we'll set the magenta a little bit extra. Let's try a linear push. Erase a little bit off the front. Okay. Add a little bit there, a little bit there, a little bit off the edge there. A little dot there, and right there. I don't think I need to do anything on this side, but let me draw a line and see what happens. We need a little bit softer. Let me drop the flow way down. And just give a little hint on that side. All right. And then maybe I didn't select. Let me select this mask again. A little bit on the ground here. Let me try. I might need a new one, a new brush, because I don't want to push the shadows. I just want to push the specular. So I'm going to do a new brush. And then just draw right here. And just push the highlights and micro contrast. And push the warmth. Okay. Give it another stroke. A little bit more there. Okay. And then I'm going to go back to the eyes. Let me just give it a little extra push. Let me spread this out. A third of a stop. There we go. All right, now maybe globally, we'll just warm this up a tad. A little bit there and a little magenta. Okay, and then one last thing. Let me make a new mask. Do a control line. I'm just going to darken this area a bit, very gradually. Maybe this way. No. Let's just do it flat, straight. Just pull the blacks in. All right, very good. Let's export that. All right. See how long that one takes to export, because I don't think I used any AI tools, but let's see, 41 seconds for that image, 30 seconds for that one. This one's probably going to go 30 seconds in. It's interesting. I wonder why this one's taking longer. Just for reference, okay, that finished. Let's see, that took 42 seconds. All right. Let me reset this. We'll do a side by side. So here, here's the original on the right and my edit on the left. So I did crop in quite a bit tighter because this element here on the left was very distracting. And it's kind of a cloudy day, I'm guessing. So I wanted to sort of pretend there's a little bit of sun out actually. So hopefully I accomplished that by just pushing the highlights. Because I was debating, maybe try to darken the background a bit and brighten the dog. That could be one way to go. Uh, I decided to go the other way and just separate the dog from the water by making the water, basically white. So if we do a split view, there's the original, and there's the edit. And I intentionally clipped some of the corner or edges of the dog. Let's see how we did on the fine detail. So yeah, you can see a really good job. That looks great. Beautiful dog. I'm pretty sure this is an Australian Shepherd. I think. I don't know. Looks like maybe a mix, a little bit with a husky. Um, so if anyone knows, let me know. Okay. So that was from Philip. Thank you, Philip, for sending that beautiful picture of a dog. Okay, so let's go here. This one is from John Follows. All right. Wow. So Ferrari. Yeah. Whenever I see a Ferrari, you just have to smile, right? So the tricky part here, we have a couple of issues. Uh, you're pointing down at the subject and then tilting a little bit to get a straight line. So I'm not, and this is one of the things I'm really bad at, subjectively speaking, is working with these perspective distortions when a lot of times it's very intentional, right, from the person that took the photo. Uh, so what I mean is, like, if you look at this line here, it's kind of skewing off to the left, and then you look at this line here, and it's almost straight, but it skews a little bit right. So the camera's basically pointing down, and that's why we're getting this keystoning type error. Let me just apply basic preset first, and then I have to think about how I'm going to process this. So if I do a quick perspective correction, oh, that's interesting. It's a little bit too much. I'll back it off a little bit. I think I'll do that. So I'm just using the automatic perspective. You can tweak this if you go into the advanced settings, but A lot of times I can just work with the automatic and then just back it on or off until it looks about right. Okay, and then from here, I can make the street darker and darken this card here, because we don't care about any of the architecture or anything. Let me try that, because the overall exposure is about right. I don't want to push it anymore because we'll start clipping the highlights, which I don't want to do in this case, unlike with the dog picture I just did. But I do want to see the grill here, and then I want to see some shine on the wheels, and then minimize everything else. So let me try the AI tool for this one. So if I select like a road, I do select subject. Let's see if it picks out that car. Pretty much. Okay, good. Uh, we'll do that, but let's subtract out this car. Oh, actually, I can use the AI tool, I think, to do this. Let me get rid of this. So I'll go back to this. If I do negative, there we go. I can subtract that out just like that. And then let's just use a brush to get the rest of it. I still like to do things the old school way. Sometimes this AI is too much. All right, good enough. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate this mask, and we'll call this background. Mask one is the car. Let's work on the background. Let me see if I can just. Whoops. Did I get that backwards? Oh, background. I got to invert it. There we go. Let's invert it. There we go. All right, so background, and let's just pull this in like this. Might be too much. Okay. It's a bit too much, but that's okay. I can brighten it back up. Maybe about there. All right, so let me do a new mask. Let's see. Let's try an AI tool and see what we get. If we can highlight these grills. And wheels. Yeah, and let's just do a slight push. There it is. Okay, and then kind of clear view and micro contrast. It's a little bit much on the wheels. I might have to do those separately. Maybe Yeah, I'll do the wheels separately. So let me delete these two masks. Whoops. Oh, dang it. Crashed on me right in the middle of an edit. Only problem is, whoops, that's Photolab 8. I gotta pull up Photolab 9. Only problem is this happens with everything. Okay. Lightroom crashes, Photoshop crashes all the time on me. But the problem is a lot of times I have to reboot the whole computer to get it to stop crashing repeatedly once it crashes one time. And like I said, it doesn't matter what software. So I think it's more of a problem with my computer sometimes. But let me get Photolab up back and running again, and then we'll get back into it. This is loading. So I see William is here. Yeah, I got time for one more. And Gertie says, thanks, Rob, for the mining edit. Gives me ideas for Photolab 9. Cool. And oh, you bought that 25. Awesome. It's a nice little lens, right? And let's see. Henning is here. Good to see you, Henning. I'm glad you're able to comment again. That was a little rough. I don't know why. I think maybe one of the moderators had you out. So what I did is I opened up Photolab 8 by mistake. Now I have to close Photolab 8 and reopen Photolab 9, but now Photolab 9 is not opening. So what I might have to do, let me see. Sometimes I can go in the task manager. Oh, Photolab is opening now. Okay. Never mind. So we were editing. All right, let's get back to it. I'll wait for this to come up. Oh, I got this internal error. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to reset this image. Start over. One of the AI tools or whatever masking tools is crashing on me. So we're going to apply basic preset and then do the perspective correction. I'm going to back that off a tiny bit. That looks good. Maybe crop in a little bit too. So I didn't do that last time. All right. Dang it. I'm not going to get. I'm not going to get an AI tool to work. No error occurred. Maybe it's just that file. Let me see if it's. Let me try a different one real quick. I'm sorry. I have to diagnose this right in the middle of it. So it's not the. Yeah, it doesn't matter if it's a Nikon or Canon. And let me download the optics module. I didn't do that first. Yep. This is going to be a problem. What if I just do a regular control point? Oh, that's fine. All right, so my AI tool won't work right now. Every time I try and move it in here, let me try rectangle tool. Yeah, it's not making any difference. So if DxO is watching, I hope they see what happened here. I'm sure they'll fix it, but we'll just use local control points. I don't have to use the AI tool for something like this. So what I can do is, let's do a control line. And I'm going to move this over here and put a stronger chroma mask. And do the same thing in this direction. And a little bit of a lumen mask on that too. And we'll just pull this down like that. Maybe put one up here too. Okay. And a little bit down here. All right, good. And then let's do control points. Actually, I can probably do this. Just use the old school auto select brush. Seems to improve since Photolab 8. It is improved a little bit. Let's push the shadows here. Good. Give it some clear view and some micro contrast. And then I'm going to do the headlights. Okay. Headlights, I'm going to push the highlights, push the clear view up, micro contrast. And just make that right about there. Okay. And then I think the wheels, I don't have to do anything different. I'll just use the same brush. You just need to go in a little bit closer. Yeah, I might need a new brush. Let's use a regular brush. 30-30. And I'm going to brush in here. Let's push the highlights, midtones, shadows. Not quite enough. Give it another couple of strokes. So I want to see the spokes. Okay, let me get to this corner. All right. See if I can minimize this car a little bit in the background. So let's do a new mask. And again, I'll just use a control point. But all I have to do is tighten up the chroma or color mask here. Get right in here. And just pull that down a bit. And one more control point on the windshield. Now, John, if you get a chance to take a picture of a car again like this, um, using a polarizer really helps cut the reflections down, and you get a much nicer image of the car. Because right now I'm getting really strong reflections here, like on the windshield and on the hood. And a polarizer would mitigate that quite a bit. Good. We're almost there. Let me try just a little push on the overall. Okay. So smart lighting does. That's okay. All right. Now, the only other thing I want to do, go back to the first mask. I'm going to pull the white balance a little bit. Just make it a little bit cooler. And then maybe just temper the highlights a little bit on the hood. So use a control point. A little bit of clear view. Okay. Let's export that. So Joanne has the OM3. Awesome. Awesome. You're going to love that camera, Joanne. And Robbie says, I do find Photolab throws up random every. Yeah, I get that. Version 9 throws up more errors than often. Okay. Yeah, I've just been going a couple of days at it, like here in the live streams and stuff. It didn't happen on my 2 live streams that I did, or 3 maybe. I was editing a lot of images and demoing things, and everything went smooth. And then today I'm doing a live edit, and it crashed on me. And then there was a recent NVIDIA driver release, 580. Oh, I'll have to check that. Okay. Yeah, like I said, I don't know where the problem is, but let's reset this and compare it to the output. Okay, so here's my edit on the left. I probably could have saturated this a bit more, make the yellow a little bit stronger, but mainly I just wanted to bring the car front and center. So I got rid of the left side here. So it's kind of, parked into the frame versus feels a little bit parked away from the frame, right? And I think using a polarizer would have really made this car pop a lot more with, the way the reflections are on this car. It's just a little bit distracting, particularly the windshield. But other than that, it's a great shot. All right. Where are we? Let's see. We have a product shot, an S5. Oh, I've never heard of an S5D. That's interesting. Okay, so let's apply basic preset. And let me make sure I got the optics module for this. Yeah, we're good. If I do a quick perspective thing, there's not much going on there. Maybe just get rid of this line here. This is something Photolab's not really good at, is, it doesn't have like an AI remove like Photoshop does. But I'm definitely going to crop in a little bit and get rid of the line here on the table. And I don't think I need to see the strap. We might need to get a 5x4. Okay, that's a little cleaner. A little bit too much negative space there. I'll go there. I'm just going to try a quick clone and see if I can get rid of that line. Kind of. Let me do a little less feathering. Ooh, no, not like that. I need a new brush. And then let me see if I can do the same here. All right, good enough. Uh, just a little bit tighter crop right there. And then from here, I think all I need to do is maybe temper the highlights a bit and then pull in the blacks. Probably Clearview would do it. Oh, I got a little banding here. Boy, this one's got all kinds of issues. All right, so let's not do Clearview. What we want to do, let's use a control line and see if we can minimize that banding a bit. Like this. Yeah. And I'm going to move the dropper up here. I'm going to tighten up the chroma and luma a bit. And just soften that with the micro contrast negative. So yeah, that got rid of the banding. Okay. Uh, now let's use the control points again and just kind of spot check a couple of the darker areas. So let me tighten up the luma mask again and just pull that in a bit. The I think the lens cap is going to need its own control point. So let's do a new one. A little bit tighter on the luma. And just pull that in a bit. And clear view and micro contrast. Just a touch. Okay. I don't think I can temper these highlights at all. Let's see if I can temper these a bit. Oh, there is detail in there. Okay. All right. So we can do something there. Uh, what I will do, let me get rid of this control point. I think an auto masking brush would be better. Make that a little bigger. Just see if I can temper that highlight a bit. A bit of spillage right there. Right. Set. What's the opacity? Hold on. Okay, good. Can I do the same thing over here? A little bit. No, let's not do the button. I like the button being kind of highlighted that way. All right. What is that? Oh, did I accidentally? What is that? Did I accidentally brush something? I did. Let me get rid of this. I accidentally put something there. Okay. There we go. All right. I think I'm done there. So let's export that. Um, the only other thing I would think about with this image is to maybe push the background completely white. Uh, but the challenge I have is I don't want to mess with these. This is where like the AI mask would work great, but I don't think it's gonna, yeah, I'm not gonna get the AI mask back. Uh, the only other thing is, let me see if, oops, let me do, a new mask, apply a control line, and go very tight on the chroma and luma. Okay, not bad. Desaturate a bit. All right, that's not bad. Let's export that. All right. Okay. So that should have exported. Yep. Let's reset it and let's do a side by side. All right. So basically, I had to crop in and get rid of this, mainly the bottom part here. The strap, I regret a little bit not keeping this wrist strap in the frame, but so I would have had to do a custom crop rather than doing, say, like a standard 5x4 or 3x2. I just, if I went like with a customized crop, I could have kept the entire strap in. But yeah, I wanted to get rid of this line here that's, the seam between the two boards. And then there's banding in here, which I don't know if you can see this in the stream up. There's banding up here. It's probably artificial lighting. And I minimize that quite a bit just with micro contrast. Um, and then just pulling the blacks in a little bit. So this is subjective choice. I just wanted to be really dark versus, you can see a lot more texture in the original image, and that may be someone else's preference to do that. But my preference is to just make it dark. And then also we pulled the highlights in up here, which I'm shocked we were able to pull those in, but we did. So I think that looks pretty good overall. Okay, and then let's see. I have another landscape. So let me get to a quick question here. Um, so Bruce says you have hardware file, DxO files on my Mac M3. It is very slow on my Windows PC. 12th Gen i5 and NVIDIA 16 GPU. So yeah, you need to get up to at least an RTX 2060 as a minimum for your video card. And the 12th Gen i5, I don't know if it's a laptop or a desktop, but if it's a laptop, an i5 is a little bit weak even for a laptop. So I would go like an i7. It can be 13, 14, or whatever the latest gen is. But I would go with an i7. Make sure the letter H is in the name somewhere. So say Core i7 13900H, right? It'll have some model number. Make sure there's an H in there. It can be HX, but H or HX. And then also for the NVIDIA, you want to make sure it's an RTX. And the latest generation is the 5060. So you want an RTX 5060 as a minimum. And then, of course, 32 gig of RAM. That would be my minimum requirement, especially with this AI stuff. And that's actually probably going to run faster than even my computer. I have a 13th gen i9 with an RTX 4080. But yeah, so that's what I would do for my Windows PC. Joanne says, I think 581.15. I don't even know what version I'm on. And Reblom AI started crashing with 580.97, but fine when I rolled back to the previous. It's interesting. I wonder, where's my NVIDIA? It's called GeForce, right? No, it's NVIDIA. Is it the control panel? Normally, I just open up the GeForce, but let's see. I'm on version 572.83. I'm on a really old version, it looks like. That might be the problem. So I'm going to stick to just non-AI type editing here. Don't really need it, but I'm going to upgrade that driver before I go to do my live stream later today. Okay, some more tips here. Get it directly from the manufacturer. Yeah, that's what I do is I use the GeForce app and it should be downloading it directly. And this camera was on sale in the Netherlands for €849. Wow. Wow, that's a deal. That's a deal. I would get one for that price, maybe. That's 5D model added DJI LiDAR autofocus. Oh, interesting. That does ring a bell. And looking at the NVIDIA release here, 577 is 3 releases ago. Geez, I hope we don't have to try all various releases to get one that works. Okay. Uh, there's your problem. Looking for a driver release that works. Yeah. And just get a Mac. I got a history with Mac or Apple in general that I can't bring myself to buy their products. And it has nothing to do with the quality of their product, but it has to do with a personal problem I have with Apple. Okay, let's get back to editing. So, wow, I think this is fine straight out of camera, but let's apply basic preset and maybe horizon correction. Let's see if it finds anything. Nope, horizon's perfectly level. It still looks off to me, but my googly eyes, I might as well just use the straightening tool and see. Yeah, 1 degree. That doesn't look right either. if I do that, 1.18 degrees. I guess that's straight. It just the way the sky and the water is, it makes the horizon look crooked, but that should be perfectly straight. Uh, the question, this would look good as a trifecta, right? If you split the image into three verticals. I can't do that here, but um, I could do it in Nick Collection. That would be the way to go. Because really, there's really no editing to do here. I think it looks great straight out of camera. Maybe some smart lighting. Uh, just a little push on the exposure. And then let's see if I can pull back some of the highlights like this, but maintain some contrast. And then I'll take a brush. What are we at? 30/30. Okay. I can take a brush and just maybe try to accentuate some of the colors in here. So, okay, I think that's all I need to do. Uh, and then what I would do is just go to Nick Collection, Analog Effects. I know this stream is not about Nick Collection, but the image the way it is, there's very little editing to do. But I want to get really creative. Yeah, I'm really bad about updating. All right, so multi-lens and something like this. Turn off the film type. Less than scratches. And then just give it a nice thick border. Some variations. Okay. Uh, that's what I would do. I would make it a trifecta. See if there's any other patterns in here. This one's pretty cool too. I mean, some people hate this stuff. I kind of like it. There's another one down here. I think the first one, the basic trifecta, was the best. But there's some other options here, right? Yeah, that's kind of interesting too. If you want to get all artsy about it. But I would frame this like on my wall over my bed, the head of the bed, and then that this would be kind of cool. But I kind of like the original one here with a nice thick border. Okay, very good. Let's go to let me just click apply. And then this should update. So we'll do a side by side. Use image as reference. So there's the before and after. I forgot to turn off the effects, but yeah, that's what I would do with something like this. I would make it a trifecta. All right. Oh, cool. Is he waving at you? No, he's pointing at the. Oh man, that looks like what's his name? George Lucas from Star Wars. Okay, another pretty straightforward cut. I like this. I like how these people on the left and right. This would be a perfect trifecta too. Uh, so I might do that. And horizon's good. So all we have to do really, let's apply a basic preset and let's just do a control line with the sky, tighten up the luma or the chroma a bit, and then do clear view. Yeah, that's good. Maybe just brighten this guy up a little bit. Use the linear push on the boat and the people over here. Go push a little bit more. Okay, and then another control line. This time for the water. And we'll tighten up the chroma and luma on this. And pull the blacks in. Add some clear view. We'll cool it off a bit. Let's back off the chroma. There we go. Now move this up. Maybe some more clear view and some contrast. And then we'll drop a couple of highlights in with the control point. Like this. So what I'm going to do here is just push the highlights a bit. Maybe up here. Just to make the scene a little bit, just have a little bit more contrast. Maybe a slight push in the midtones. And for color, let's see what Vibrant does. Natural, Vibrant, and Vivid. Vivid looks best. Yeah, let's go with Vivid. I like that. All right, and then I'm going to just add a touch of warmth, maybe about 100 Kelvin or so. Okay, do the same thing, a trifecta. Hmm. There's a way to move these images. I forget how to do it. Let me get rid of this processing. Multi-lens. This corner is a way to move these around inside. I kind of like this. Let's see. That's kind of interesting. Nah. Again, this first one was the best one. We just need a thick border. A couple of variations. And let's get rid of the scratches and distortion and basic adjustments. Apply. All right, so before I did all that, um, let's just look at my basic edit. So my basic edit really was just to make the water more reflective and a little bit cooler. Bring in some of the details of the sky, but not overdo it, right? I don't want it to look like I did a sky replacement. And then highlight the subjects here, here, and in the center. Just made them a little bit brighter. And then spots of light, here and there around the frame, because it's a little bit flat here, right? Especially the grass. So I just wanted to give it a little punch and make it a little more dynamic. So that's the basic edit. And this is the set that as a reference. So this is the whatchamacallit, the trifecta. I would have liked to move these a little bit. I could do this in Photoshop, but in the collection, this is what I got. And yeah, it's not bad. Okay. Let's go to the next one. And we have a landscape here from Joanne. Okay, so let's apply basic preset. And this would not look good as a trifecta, I don't think. But maybe go a lot wider. So I'm thinking we use the line up here from this corner of the mountain to bring you into the frame, and then this line down here to bring you into the frame. It'd be nice if there was a line on that side, but I think this sort of crisscross is not bad. And then let's use a control line to adjust the sky. So we will temper that a bit with the masking. And everything I'm doing here, you can do in Photolab 9. I'm sorry, in Photolab 8 and 7 and 6. Well, 6, I'm not 100%, but yeah, no, 6, 7, and 8, you can do the same thing. The workflow is a little different in 6, but in 7 and 8, it's identical to what I'm doing here. Let's bring in some clear view. Okay, that's a little too strong. Not like that. And actually, maybe back off this chroma a bit, because it's a little bit too, stay at 50-50. And then we have some pretty strong reds and greens. So the question is, do I separate these in black and white, which I can probably do with the channel mixer? No, I think color's fine. Let's go with natural or vibrant. Vibrant looks good. Vivid. I'll let's do a portrait. Well, portrait two looks good. Let's go with that. That really brings out the reds nicely. And I can expand on that using the color wheel. So let's select orangey area there. And let's spread this into the reds a little bit more and into the yellow. Okay. All right, let's work with let's do another control line. Oops, I need to make a new one. So plus, and move this dropper to about there. And what I want to do here is maybe just warm it up a bit. Where were we at? We're at 5,300. Let's go to about 58. And then a new control line. No, maybe control point, just bigger ones. And we'll back off. Let's stay away from the water. And I'm just going to cool this off a bit. About 400 Kelvin there. And then the new one, we'll make this a little bit warmer. About, yeah, about another 500 Kelvin. Something like that, 500 or 600. Because the color is so strong up here in the front, I might have to back that off. Let me do that real quick. Just back it off a little bit. Okay. Now I'm just going to add some kiss of light here and there. So I'm going to use a brush. Let's make a new mask. And we're still at about 30 on the mask. Go a little bit smaller and just kind of let's do a slight push to the highlights. A little smaller. Maybe a touch there. Touch in here. With some micro contrast. Okay. A little bit there. One more line there. Touch there. Right there. Okay, that looks good. And we'll do the opposite in the foreground. So what I want to do is actually darken some of this. So I think if we darken this, probably on this left side, be better. So again, I'm at about 30 flow and opacity. And just pull the blacks in, the shadows, midtones. Okay. That looks good. Now let's just do the water. Another control point. I bet an auto masking brush will do the trick. This is an improvement over Photolab 8. You can actually see what's being masked, whereas before it's kind of guesswork because you would highlight the area and then I would have to kind of guess where the auto masking actually, drew its edges. So that's close enough, and it's nicely feathered in. So we'll just add some clear view, some micro contrast, and we'll cool it off a little bit. Oh, that's too much. Well, what, 53? Let's go to about 5,000. Off the magenta. A little bit on the highlights. And go the other way. Okay. Um, I think that's good. So let me export that. And we'll compare, side by side. All right, so I think the 16 by 9 crop looks pretty good. And I may have overdid it a little bit here on the highlights on the side of the mountain, but uh so what I would do is go back and adjust that, just temper it a little bit. I went a little bit too hard there. But for the most part, I'm pretty happy with this edit, I think. So that's the before, and then there's the after. I think that looks pretty good. I mean, the main thing is, I cooled off on the shady side a little bit, warmed up, on this side, and then watched my corners here, this corner and this corner to line up. Fortunately, they did. Of course, they don't always line up. It's a landscape, but I try to take advantage of any kind of line or, I try to watch my corners is basically what I'm saying. And then, making the water a little bit glassier. Okay. Let's see. We have one here, and I think there's one more. Uh, someone commented they wanted me to try to edit theirs. I'll take a look. All right. So this was obviously exposed for the highlights only. Wow. Let me just take a quick look at the exposure. Maybe, yeah. I think something along this lines. Let me see. Actually, that might pull up pretty nicely because there's some speculars here that I want to get in the buildings. There's artificial lighting going on kind of a little bit everywhere. So this is going to be a little bit tricky to get what I'm thinking. And I think I can crop the bottom off. So let me apply a basic preset. And then I'm just going to temporarily push the exposure so I can compose it. Let's try perspective. Okay, yeah, nothing to do there. Well, let's try again a 16 by 9. The problem with marinas and boats are everything looks crooked because boats don't stay level in the water, right? You got the mast like right here in the center. You got two masts going in different directions. Um, so marinas are, optically are a pain in the butt for me. I'm just going to tilt it a little bit so it looks right to me. You know about these pillars here. Let me. If I do 16 by 10, I guess that works. Okay. So maybe leave this at +4. And let's try a control line. We're gonna tighten up the Luma mask. Because this image has such an extreme dynamic range, a lot of the things where I try to temper and make things look more natural are not going to apply here because I really have to work with extreme dynamic range here. Let's try if I just push. And we're going to need a little bit more warmth. And cat magenta. I think that is good. All right, let's do a new control line for the sky. And tighten up the Luma mask. And then pull that down. Clear view. All right. Now, let's do another control point right in here. And we're going to just bend around the boats, tighten up the Luma a bit. Oh, wow, there's a new diffusion slider. That's nice. That's new in Photolab 9. I didn't notice that before. That's cool. All right, so what I want to do here is warm it up actually. Just exaggerate the glow from the sun. Like that. And then we'll do some control points just around the ships, a little tighter Luma. Right there and there. Uh, and another push again. And the warmth. knock the edges a little bit. You know, and just keep these a little bit tight. Soften a little bit. There, right there, here, and then here, a little bit there. Push on the highlights. These need to be smaller and over. A little bit of haloing. All right. Let me just look at my crop one more time. I feel like I don't really need this left side. Maybe do this. Almost. Not 4x3. How does that balance? I don't know. I think that works. Okay. Let's call it there. Yeah, Volman suggested maybe a black and white. We can see what that looks like. And all I have to do is just go over here to color and click that. No, that's not bad. I need to change my lighting a little bit. Something just to make it more dramatic. Um, Maybe not. That's the black and white essentially. Well, let's go ahead and reset this, and we'll do a side by side with the output. So yeah, this image, the original, was very heavy on the left side, and there's so little information there, so little light. Even if I tried to pull things back, it would just look very unnatural. Um, so I think just going in the center and trying to kiss a little bit of light onto the boats here worked best. So if we just do a split view, I think this looks a lot better. And I think it looks better in color, you know. I would maybe try to pull the blues in a little bit more here and then reflect that blue down in here from up here. That's the only thing I would do if I was to continue editing this photo. I'd probably try and do that. But yeah, compared to the original, like Simon was saying, uh, probably pushed a little too hard. This is the kind of scene you would do exposure bracketing and do an HDR, right? Uh, this is a tough shot to get in one exposure, but it's pretty amazing what we were able to recover. What'd you shoot with this? This is an 0-1. So that's amazing. That's amazing recovery. I'm always impressed. Okay, I think that was the last one. So let me see. Someone else said they sent something. Let's see if I can find it. There might be one more we can do. Oh wow, there's a bunch more. Time is it? Oh, I have to stop here. Uh, so it looks like this is what Paul did. He's showing his edit versus what I did. He didn't like the two people on the left and right side, but this in and of itself makes a nice subject, right? Just in the center. And you pulled in a lot more detail in the sail. I didn't even bother with that, but now we can see the seams and the wrinkles and everything. So that's an interesting edit. Um, and then there's a few here. One from I don't know what this is. Henning sent one in. Oh, and this is from Mike. Okay, I'm sorry. I have to go right now and prep for my next stream, which is like in an hour. Uh, so I will save these, except for that one. I'll save these three images because it's really just three here. I'll save these three for next time. Oh, wait a minute. You didn't see uh, this. I'm sorry. I wasn't showing you Paul Crisp's edit here. I was talking about it and you were just looking at me. But here's Paul Crisp. What I was saying is, again, he pulled in a lot more detail from the sales and everything, which I didn't bother with. Uh, and cropped out and got rid of the people on the left and right. So I think that's why I went with the trifecta, because it it singles out the boat in the center, but then keeps the two other elements that I really liked about it, which was the two people, standing on the shoreline. And then, like I said, as for the rest of these, I'll have to get to these next week. So stay tuned for that. And thanks everyone so much for joining me today. I have to update some drivers, um, and hopefully Photolab doesn't crash while I'm trying to do a live stream and tell everybody how great it is, right? And again, I do these just about every single week on Fridays, and I really appreciate you guys sending your pictures in. It's a two-way learning street here, or for me and for you, hopefully. What you can see, you can do with Photolab, give you some editing ideas, and just have a cup of coffee and have some fun, right? So thanks again for joining me today, and join me back at 1 o'clock or 1:30. I forget what time the stream is, but it's in an hour or so, and we'll see you there. If not there, I'll be back on Sunday for my normal photo chat live stream, and then of course Tuesday's my shopping live stream, because a lot of us have gas like me, and then Friday again for our normal things. So you guys have a great rest of your day. Have a great weekend, and I hope to see you again soon.